Hello, my name's John Wadsworth. I'm a professional astrologer and this is my video blog for the 23rd of May 2013. I'm posting this now because we're coming up to another very important astrological moment, and that's the lunar eclipse, which actually occurs at 4 o'clock in the morning GMT on Saturday morning. So the run-up to it really is tomorrow, Friday the 24th of May, and a lot of people will be celebrating the full moon and doing their rituals and ceremonies tomorrow evening on the Friday in the anticipation of that energy coming. It's an unusual eclipse season this, because we've had 3 eclipses in a row. A lunar eclipse followed by a solar eclipse and now another lunar eclipse. And perhaps the most significant, certainly the trickiest, I would say, of the 3 eclipses. But it's kind of, there's a story here that's unfolding. This one is tricky because it falls in, the sun is in Gemini in the tropical zodiac, the moon in Sagittarius. But the degrees at which they fall at, this degree falls at 4 degrees of those signs. And therefore it falls in exact square to Neptune, which is currently at 4 degrees of Pisces. It's an almost exact square. Creates what we call a T-square, which is a very challenging energy, and it places the planet Neptune in a kind of conflicting relationship with the sun and the moon, and it becomes a focal point for the eclipse. Now, Neptunian energy, when it's under that kind of aspect, makes us susceptible to delusion, to great inflation, to a sort of rather nebulous quality which we might want to put all our faith in. It's the kind of situation where you have someone who, you want to put all your faith in someone or something or some great possibility, but actually there's no substance there, there's nothing there to hold on to. So it's a time to be quite wary, quite cautious of getting carried away with some great kind of idea. There's a lot of idealism around. There could be fanaticism around this. There's potential for religious fanaticism at a time like this, and we might see that in the world. The other thing is that Uranus and Pluto are perfecting another of their square aspects. They've just literally done that in the last couple of days, so that aspect is full on at the moment. It's part of this unfolding of a series of square aspects that began last year in June and carry on right through to 2015, and we're right on one of those intense periods right now. So on the one hand we have this kind of this Neptunian susceptibility, possible gullibility, this ability to be deceived. And there's a lot of mutable energy around. We have 3 planets in Gemini, which I'll mention more in a second. But a lot of mutable energy, nothing that we can quite grasp hold of and be sure of. And in the midst of that we have this powerful square on the cardinal cross with Uranus in Aries, Pluto in Capricorn, which is really shaking the foundation, social, this revolutionary change that we're in the midst of. There's this rising tide of revolutionary energy. Interesting that we have the march against Monsanto on Saturday, right on the full energy of this as well. It'll be interesting to see how that unfolds. People all around the world marching against the GM corporate giant, feeling really strongly against that. So, it's very fitting that this happens on the eclipse, on the day of the eclipse, but also with the Uranus Pluto, they're fueling this desire to overthrow these, what people see as the old order, which is now really sort of, it's digging its heels in, but there's also this strong kind of energy and feeling against it. And I think it's very interesting that this is happening this weekend. In our own personal lives, again, anyone with personal planets in those early degrees of the mutable signs, that's Gemini, Sagittarius, Virgo and Pisces. Anyone who's born in those early degrees, or has the moon perhaps in those early degrees, if you've got the sun or the moon or the personal planets, Mercury, Venus or Mars in those degrees, especially also Jupiter, Saturn maybe, if you've got those, then you're going to be more kind of, more involved, more affected perhaps by the eclipse. But I think we're going to feel this. It's a slightly wobbly energy. Nothing. It's a bit kind of like jelly, the way this is. We can't quite grasp hold of it. The other thing to say is that this powerful conjunction with Mercury, Venus and Jupiter, all within a couple of degrees in Gemini. A lot of communicative energy here, an inflation of language, a lot of words, and it's important that we don't get overwhelmed in verbosity, in gossip. Jupiter in Gemini, when it's plugged into Mercury, can be a sort of over communication. And it can undermine us if we're not careful. There could be blessings around this as well. If you have planets in Gemini, in those later degrees of Gemini, then yeah, there could be some blessings coming from Jupiter here. But I think generally speaking, there could be some great breakthroughs in communication. But we need to sort of filter out what's useful and important from what's just gossip and tittle tattle as well. So there's all of that going on too. It's a powerful time. I think it's it's one of those periods of the year. The eclipse seasons tend to focus energy a lot. A lot of things come together around the eclipse, and we have to really be on our guard at a time like this, that we're really in integrity, that we're really coming from a good place, and particularly with this one, that we're not being pulled here and there by kind of dreams and ideas that are not particularly real. It is a great time for dreaming as well, I should say that. Neptune really opens up the dream world, but it's also, we need to have a good map if we're going to go into a dream space. We need to kind of have a good guide who's going to guide us in and guide us out again. Yes, great time for dreaming, but not a time to get carried away with it, because you could get lost in that. That's all I have to say. Hope that's helpful. Have a good eclipse. Celebrate those. Full moons are great times to celebrate. It's a time of awareness, of opening. And an eclipse is a powerful time. It's an ominous time. Traditionally, it's a time where we have to be really, really, on it, really in integrity, because negative energies can get in at that time, possibly. But if we're clear and we're clear and focused in our meditation, then it can be also a time of breakthrough and healing as well. So that's all I have to say. My name's John Wadsworth. My website is kairosastrology.co.uk. I run courses and workshops in Glastonbury, where I live and where my work is based. So I'll keep posting blogs on here. I wish you a good weekend.